Hello there, my stamping friends. Susan here with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. It's another Fun Fold card today. So this is for my January edition of my Fun Fold templates, and we're going to make this fun little card here with the belly band pulling it together. Now I've dubbed this one a modified barn fold. Barn fold is typically when the card folds in on itself. Well, this one folds in on itself, but it's slightly different. It also kind of accordions out. So I'm going to call this one my modified barn fold, but it might have other names. We all have little nicknames for our projects, but that's what I've dubbed this one. So I'm going to take you through the whole process of cutting supplies and then creating the card, and I'll create a project with you. And I'm going to use this new Designer Series paper from the Spring Mini Catalog. This one's Country Floral Lane, and I'm going to make a Valentine. So just in time for the holiday, right? All right, so let's get started. So like I said, I'm going to use this Designer Series paper, and I'm going to use basic white as my card base. So that way I don't have a lot of conflicting colors going on. I can match my ink, my Sweet Sorbet ink, to the paper when I'm making my final project for you. Okay, so like always, I bring in my paper cutter, and we're going to start with the template and cutting our supplies. So let me move this on over. Here's my paper cutter. So there we go. Okay, so I use my template to help me prep my materials. That's why this class is so much fun, because you get the template with the instructions right on it, and then you also get a sample project that you can practice putting it together. So this one tells me that I need a card base of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I also need the center section that's 11 by 4 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my sheet in half at 4 1/4. That'll be my center, and then I'm just going to go ahead and half this again. This will be the back. Okay, so I've got my two pieces there. Now I also need the piece for the belly band. Now I've gone to my scrap bin of my basic white, and I've pulled out an 11 by 1 inch piece of scrap. So that's going to be my scrap for my belly band. But if you needed to, you would just cut another piece out of another piece of cardstock for you to get that piece. Okay, now we need to do our Designer Series paper layers. Now, sometimes you need to be careful about the direction of your prints, and that's kind of what's happening today. So let me talk you through this. Okay, so I have 6 different sections of DSP here, right? I've got 3 1/4 by 4 on the edges, right? Then I've got 1 3/4 by 4 and 1 1/2 by 4. And I kind of have to decide what I want to put where before I start cutting. Now all these panels are 4 inches, but direction matters, okay? So if, for example, you wanted to put this on the front, you'd want it running this way, okay? If you want it running this way, you would have to turn the paper sideways to cut it so that it would be 4 inches this way, and then you could cut your sections to fill in those spots. Now I'm not going to put this on these front panels. I'm going to do the back side. I want the stripes. So what I'm going to do is I want my stripes to go up and down on my card, okay? So I'm going to cut my 4-inch strip this way so that then when I turn my cardstock, it'll be going the direction I want it to go. Alright, so let me start by cutting 4 inches out of this. Okay, that way my stripes will be going up and down wherever I decide to put it on my card for my panels. Okay, then I have the hearts that I want to use, and again I want the hearts to be going up and down. So I'm going to turn it sideways and cut my 4 inches this way. Now sometimes you can use one panel of DSP and just alternate the 2 sides between the prints, but I've decided to use 2 different sheets today because I want the 2 different prints. So there's that. Okay, now I need to do some more cutting, and let's go ahead and decide what we want where. So I think what I want to do is on the belly band part, okay, I want to use a punch out of one of these hearts. So that's going to go on the very front. Okay, so I think I want my hearts in here. So I'm going to cut 2 sections at 1 3/4. So here's my first one. Here's my second one. So that's my 1 3/4. And then I want to put the stripes on the outside, and I think I want to put them on the inside too. So first I'm going to do my 3/4 by 4. So 3/4 2 times is 1 1/2. So I'm going to do that first. And then I know on this cutter that if I put it right on the guide here, that's actually 3/4. So something we all learn with our paper cutters, right, is where does everything actually go. All right, so that's how that's going to come together. I'm going to put my big heart on the front. So now I have to decide, what do I want on these panels? So here are my options. I could cut more hearts, no problem. I could cut more stripes, no problem. I could flip it over and turn my card this way now and cut 1.5 to do the inside. So, well, maybe we will do that. Okay, so I need 4 inches. So now I'm going this way because I want my print to be up and down, and I need 1.5. So that's 3 inches. So I'm going to turn this like this and get my 3 inches. And then I'm going to cut that in half at 1.5. Okay, so now I've got my 2 inside panels. Okay, so you kind of have to think out where you want which pattern of paper and in what direction when you're cutting your supplies. If you want it easier, pick paper that's non-directional, right? Something that's all flowers or all a background print, right? That makes it easier for you. But if you want directions, just think about it the way it's going to lay out for you on your card. Okay, now I've got my belly band here, and it says I need a 1/2 by 11 inch strip to do that as well. So I'm going to bring my hearts back in, and I'm going to cut it down. I need a 1/2 inch strip. So I'm at 8 inches right now. I'm going to move it to 7.5, and that's going to give me a 1/2 inch strip. Now this is going to be 12 inches long, but I can just trim it off when we're working with it, okay? Alright, so there's my belly band strip. Alright, so that's all the paper cutting. Now we need to do our scoring. So I bring in my scoring tool. Okay, I'm going to move all my papers kind of over to the side. Get my excess out of the way. Now I'm going to flip over my template. Okay, everybody with me? And I go back to what I have on the back. Okay, so I need my 11 inch piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to score it according to the template instructions on the back. So this tells me that my center section has to be scored at 2. I'm going to do it right now. 2. I also need it at 3 3/4. Then I need it at 7 1/4. And I need it at 9. Oops, hold that down. 9. Okay, so there's my scoring. So now we can start crafting our card. Okay, so that didn't take too long. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and crease all of those score lines. So this is going to fold in on itself, and then it's going to come back like that. So it's kind of like a Z fold, but on both sides. One crease and then 2 creases. Okay, so there's that. And then I've got the base it's going to go down on. And then I've got all my DSPs. Okay, so let's go ahead and put together a new card. So first I'm going to put on my 2 3/4 inch pieces. And those are going to go on my edges here. So I'm just going to get my liquid glue. Hopefully it's going to cooperate the first time. Just put a little bit down. And then this is just going to be stepped in a little bit on the edge. So there's a little framing around it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so there's that. Now I've got to do this piece. Okay, now, bringing in these, right? I said my hearts were going to go on the very front. So I'll just put a little bit on the back of there, and these are going on the very outside sections. See how everything gets framed in by that basic white? Okay, and then I decided to put these on the inside. So it's kind of like a mirror image, right? You do one side, you do the other side. Okay, then if you had dark base, the inside has another panel you can cut, but because mine's already white, I'm just going to stamp right on this. So I'm not going to worry about adding that extra piece. But if you were having a colored cardstock, you could just go ahead and add a neutral to the center. Okay? All right, so now let's go ahead and put this onto our base. So what I did was I just flipped the whole thing over and I run just a thin bead of adhesive. Whatever adhesive you like, you use it. And then I need to center this on my card. Okay, so I'm just going to come down, line up the bottom, and set that on my card. Give it a press to hold it in place. Now, your center fold here should be in the center. If you really wanted to, you could center that backsplash on your grid paper, right? And then this is your center line, and then you would just put that center fold, that center opening on your center line and put that down. That's going to help you center that base. Okay, so now for the belly band on this one. Now this one's a little different. So like I said, this is now 12 inches, but we'll trim it off at the end. So I'm just going to run a simple bead down the center of my 1 inch wide cardstock. And then I'm going to put the DSP to it and let it adhere for a minute. Okay, that's going to be our belly band when we get to that part. Now remember what I said I was going to use for my center? So this is why this belly band has a center punch. The 11 inches is just going to go around our card. So we're going to have a little gap. I don't know if you can see it on this one, but there's going to be a gap in here. Okay, and we're going to use this center cutout to bridge that gap. So I have 2 of my retired punches. I've got my 2-inch punch and my 2 1/4 inch punch. You may have the simply stylish shapes now. You might have your layering circles. You're going to have all kinds of punches that you prefer to use, or die cuts that you prefer to use. So you use whatever punch or die cut suits you. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Do I have a piece? Yes, I do. I have a piece of white. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my 2-inch punch, and I'm going to punch out one of these hearts from my DSP. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to use the 2 1/4 inch punch, so just a slightly bigger punch, and do a whisper white. Okay, so that's going to give me, if it decides to come out of there, there we go. Okay, that's going to give me 2 layers to make my bridge for the center. So I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that down. Now you could add embellishments to that, you could add layers to it, you could be a large die cut or a smaller die cut. You just need one big enough to bridge the gap. Okay, now let me bring my paper snips in and trim off this little extra 1/2 inch on both ends. We've got nice clean edging. So here's how I do the belly band. So I'm going to turn my card kind of this way, and I'm going to put that belly band down on a straight line on my grid paper, right? I like using my grid paper. And I'm going to put my card on there square too, so everything's squared off. Now I'm just going to bring this up and fold it, crease it here. Okay, now if I brought that down, it'd be a nice tight crease. So what I want to do is I'm going to shift my belly band down a little bit, not too much, but enough. So there's a little bit of a gap in here, so there's space for it to slide on the card when we're done. And then I fold this over. Okay, so I'm going to give that a crease. Okay, and you can see I'm holding it all together right now. Right, I want to make sure everything's going to functionally work. Now what I do, you could use glue dots, you could use adhesive, whatever you want, feel comfortable with. I'm just going to put a little dot of adhesive here and one here. Okay, not too much, we don't want it to squish out, but just one on this side and that side of that belly band that's open in the middle, right? And then I'm going to bring in my punch and I just press that down and just give it a hold for a second. Right, it doesn't take too long to adhere, but you want to make sure that it's adhering. While that's drying, I'm just going to turn it sideways. So I've decided to use Sweet Sorbet as my coordinating color, right? Keep it all nice, sweet pink. I've got some clear blocks, and I'm going to use sentiments from the Celebrating You sentiment set. So I'm going to get those out in just a second, and I'll go ahead and stamp my sentiments to finish this off. Okay, so now that that's all down, I'm just going to slide that up so I can get to the center again. So let me pull out some sentiments. So let's use the Lots of Love. I like that one. The You're in My Thoughts. Oh, You're in My Mind, You're in My Heart. I like that one. And the Just for You. Okay, those are the three I want to use. So what I'm going to do is I put my sentiment down on my grid paper, square it off on the grid. All right, hopefully it doesn't stick to my finger. And then I'm going to take my little block and get that one. Okay, that's going to go on the front. And then these guys I'm going to use together on the inside. So a lot of times I just line up the one and I square up the other one, right? I'm using my grid paper to help me align them. And then I just put my block down on top. Okay? So if you want to use multiple sentiments in the same party card and not want to stamp them separately, line them up and put the block down on top. Okay, so Lots of Love and You're on My Mind, You're in My Heart is going on the inside. See if I can get a nice clean stamp while we're at it. Practice once, then repeat. Okay, so this is going on the inside, just like that. And then I have myself, somewhere here on the table, a piece of scrap. Again, I pulled it out of my bin of scrap. This is 2.5 by half, so it's pretty skinny. And I think this will just fit on there, so let's give it a try. I'll bring this down so I can see what I'm doing. See if I get it. Yes. Okay, great. Okay, so I've got the center, and I've got my sentiment. Now my sentiment is going to go out here. So I can decide how I want to do that. Maybe I'll put it right across the heart, and I think I'll pop that up on dimensionals. So let me just get a couple dimensionals here. Put those on the back. Just give that a little extra pop. I'm going to put that right across there. Okay, so here's my fun fold, right, my modified barn. And here's my belly band, and I've got the little extra gap in there, so I just slip one side on, and then I give it a little wiggle, get it on the other side, and then bring this down over the top. So there you go. There's our fun fold template, the second one for January. So remember, if you're part of the class, your kits are coming, right? You'll have a pre-made template with the instructions plus the printed out tutorial, and you'll have a practice kit, right? With all the pieces are pre-cut and ready for you to put together to see how it all functions and to make one. And then you can come back to the video or the tutorial and prep your own. So you'll be all set with a learning tool and some practice. So I hope you enjoyed this one today, guys. Remember, this is the Country Floral DSP from the spring catalog, and I used the Celebrating You stamp set to coordinate my sentiments. All right, everybody, have a fun day and do some great stamping. See you again soon. Bye-bye.